Hey guys, I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV. Welcome back to this week's episode of Weekly Used Gun Review. Remember, what I do is I take a sampling of used firearms and do a 1 to 2 minute review on each one so you get a broad spectrum ideas of different things that are out there on the market. Keep in mind, nothing in this video is for sale. This video is intended to be strictly educational. If you want to see vlog type content, remember to go check me out on MarksmanRadio. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it now. Alright, let's go ahead and get into this, guys. Reminder, a format on this is we're going to start off with the most common that you're going to see in your dealer's used gun shelf, and we'll end with the most uncommon that you're likely to see when you walk into a gun store. So in rapid fire sequence, we will start. Starting us off here is a Smith & Wesson. This is the relatively new M&P Shield Easy. Easy meaning it is entirely easy to use. That was the whole concept on this. So the slide impulse is very, very light, has little wings you can grab onto here. Now, even though it is part of the Shield line, obviously the ergonomics, the design, and layout is substantially different than the classic Shield design. This particular one is a 9mm. It does have ambidextrous safety controls here, a grip safety. You have forward slide serrations. Magazine release is reversible, and your slide release here and takedown lever are only on the left-hand side of the firearm. So Smith & Wesson came out with these about a year to a year and a half ago, and they came out only in .380. Very shortly after that, maybe about 6 months to 8 months later, they did come out with a 9mm version, which this is. And this happens to be a full flat dark earth and tan Cerakoted version. So the Cerakoted versions are going to typically add about $40 to $50 onto the price tag because of the finish. So it's a little bit different, kind of cool stylizing there. The sights on this are in a 3-dot configuration, and they're metal, and it does have a loaded chamber indicator. Now, I've done a review on the Shield Easy before, a full-length review, so you can actually look at that in comparison with a 9mm, the standard 9mm variation, the Shield we all know that has been out since, for about 9 or 10 years now. If you're interested in that, it's back in the library on my site, on my YouTube channel, so you can go and check that out. This particular one does have just one magazine, brand new. They would come with two. The magazines are a single stack 8-round capacity. Again, slide impulse is easy to use. You have these little wings here to bring your follower down, so the mags are easy to load. Trigger is a really nice, crisp, light trigger pull. It is a striker fired handgun. Something like this is really popular in our store for women, typically elder people, people with lighter hand strength. But of course, the firearm is not only limited to that market, it is a good quality, good usable for defensive or home carry option for both experienced and new shooters, and definitely something I recommend taking a look at. Brand new, they are selling in about the 400-ish range for the base model. With the Cerakoted finish, they're in about the 450. Used, you should find them between about $300 and $400. So really good option if you find one sitting around, definitely worth taking a look at. And this is going to be firearm number 1 for this week's review. All right, up next is a actually not very common firearm. This one's a Beretta. Now, Beretta did start making these again. This is a model 3032 Tomcat. Of course, I have the original box. This would have had a little nylon zippable pouch that this would be sitting on, but of course the previous owner did not have that, so just an empty cardboard box and the firearm with one magazine. Now, Beretta has been making these for several years, and they stopped production on them for a while, but recently they started up again on the Tomcat and the Bobcat, which is the 22, and then they have the 25 version. So they made these tilting barrels in 22, 25, and 32. This, of course, being the highest caliber that's available. Now, the value on these was pretty high about on the used market for the classic ones. You could see them between about $400 and $500 on GunBroker, as long as they were in good condition with the box. Now, new, they are selling for about that now, so you can get these, again, new. This is on inox, so the stainless, and I know you can get them in the 22. I have not seen the 25. Somebody, if you know if they make these in the 25, let me know down in the comments so people can go look at that information. But brand new, these are going to be about $450, and then used now, they've dropped down to about the anywhere between about $300 to $375, right in that price point. One magazine. Now, you guys have probably seen this sort of technology before. If you haven't, I'll explain it. This is a tilting barrel firearm. Again, keeping in congruency with the easy shield that you just saw. This was really designed for people who had an issue or had a difficult time racking the slide. Of course, you can bring the slide back on the firearm. It is a little bit tight, but what you can also do is just load and top off the magazine and insert it. There is a lever here which you turn and it pops up your barrel. You can load one round into the chamber and then close it, and then you're ready to fire. You don't have to rack the slide. Of course, it also gives you the addition or the availability of having a fully loaded magazine with one easily loaded into the chamber. So when you go to pull the trigger and fire the gun, it'll cycle itself. You don't have to manipulate the slide. This is a double or single action firearm with a mechanical manual safety, and they make a really good sort of a vest pocket or a pocket firearm, especially in the 22 and 25, which are even smaller than this. So very cool, classic designs, been out from Beretta for quite a while. They are very popular defensive carry sidearms, especially for deep concealment. If you're going out to the beach or just wearing, shorts, really something that's easy to carry. And again, mainly for people with dexterity issues in the hand, or women, who might have an issue racking the slide. I know I say this a lot on the channel. In my experience owning a gun store, lots of women do have an inherent issue of racking slides on firearms, just something I see normally. So most women, not all, do enjoy things like this, which are very easy to be able to sort of plug and chug, drop around in the chamber, close it up, ready to go. Don't have to rack or manipulate anything. Really no hand strength required. Very simple, easy firearm to use. Of course, because you did not rack the slide, you can still, it's got a really nice ledge here on the hammer. You can go ahead and pre-cock that again if you want that easy single action trigger pull. So really cool classic firearms. Okay, up next is another one you're not going to see too often yet probably used, and this is the first used one we've had, but this is the new Caltech CP33. This is even hard to get new right now because it is a relatively new release from Caltech. And what this is a 22, let's see here, what am I doing wrong? There we go. This is a 22 LR, and it does house 33 rounds in the magazine. An interesting thing about this is it is a quadruple column. So it's a little rib here which divides the magazine into two sections, and each section double stacks 22 LR, so you have a total of 4 stacks in here, giving you 33 rounds. So really, I mean, the interesting thing about Caltech is they do make a lot of gimmicky firearms, but they also do have really interesting technology, and every single product they come out with sort of takes breaks the mold on firearms design concepts, and they're always coming up with new and interesting things. So that's one thing I really like about Caltech products. Now, new, the CP33s have been a little bit expensive again because they are very tough to get a hold of. You typically find them around between the $400 to $500 mark. Used, you're probably going to find them between $300 and $400. Really, really cool. Now, I actually sold this firearm to a good customer of mine. Happened to be out on the range with him, and I fired this gun, and it runs very well. So this is actually one of the few used guns I've actually test fired and can attest to the fact it's a good shooter. But having had shooting experience, of course, because of the size and weight and being a 22, it is a very mild recoil. I mean, virtually non-existent, as most 22s are. And you have a 3-dot, sorry, phone rang. You have a 3-dot configuration sight picture, which is really nice. Charges here in the back, as you guys already saw me do that. So really cool firearms, not much else to say about them. They are unique. You're probably, again, not gonna find these new or used pretty frequently on your dealer shelves, but cool, of course, when unique and interesting stuff like this comes in. And of course, because of the rarity, it is gonna be a quick mover. All right, up next is a Ruger new model Blackhawk. This particular one is chambered in 30 carbine and has a 7.5-inch barrel. You don't typically find these in 30 carbine. In fact, you don't really find a lot of things in 30 carbine these days. If you are not familiar with the round, it was basically developed for the M1 carbine, which was used by American troops in World War II. And of course, they've been used beyond for police and security work through the 60s and 70s. And today they are a very popular sporting carbine. A lot of people take them out, shoot them on the range, collect them, and there are some manufacturers that make them as a new production item like Auto Ordnance. Now, we're not here talking about the M1 carbine, but the round is very good. Ballistically, I'm going to say it's very similar to something like a 357. They are incredibly loud and a lot of fun to shoot. Not a whole lot of recoil, so less recoil than a 357, but a really good amount of muzzle energy. Now, I am not I do not study up on ammunition, ballistics, muzzle velocities, things like that. That is not my forte. I'm more interested in firearms, and I just plink for fun. So if you want to talk about the 30 carbine versus the 357 in the comment section, please feel free to do that. I'm sure there are some people who would find that interesting. Standard Ruger grips, no box on this one. Of course, a Ruger Blackhawk in and of itself is really designed to mimic a Colt Single Action Army with modern features involved. If you wanted to get more closely related to the Colt Single Action Army, that would be the Ruger Vaquero. So that's like taking the classic single action 6-shooter and bringing it more into the modern era. That was really the concept behind the Blackhawk line. You do have, of course, because it's a single action, you do have a loading gate that opens up. You do not have to bring the hammer to half cock. In fact, I think there's really only one cocking position, and that's full cock. So transfer bar safety, to empty the firearm, again, you bring the loading gate open, you use the ejector rod here. That's just how like a cowboy 6-shooter single action army is going to work. Base pin here takes out your cylinder pin. You take that out, you can drop the cylinder out, clean it, do whatever you want to do with it. Adjustable rear sights with a fixed ramp front sight, pretty standard for a sort of a modernized version of a single action army. An original cowboy 6-shooter single action army from Colt would have to actually be a gutter rear sight with a fixed front blade on the front. The grip angle, to a lot of people, not a lot of people really like that if you're not used to it. Definitely different ergonomics than a traditional modern revolver with a swing out cylinder. But if you like the classic designs of that, something that's a little bit more brought into the modern era for target shooting, these are great. And if you have an M1 carbine or anything else that shoots the 30 carbine, AMT Auto Mag, they made those in a 30 carbine variant. Definitely something to consider, and a really, really cool firearm. It's something you're not going to see too often, especially, again, in the 30 caliber, 30 carbine chambering. All right, up next I have a pretty unique one. Now, this is a Ruger 1022, but what makes this particular one unique is it does have the boat paddle or skeleton stock, whatever you want to call it. Now, Ruger did make 1022 carbines, and only carbines, with this stock on it for about 2 years. 2 or 3 years, I believe it was just 2 years. So this stock configuration is pretty uncommon. There is a serial number range that this rifle does fit into for rifles, or I'm sorry, carbines that were produced with would have been correctly made in this configuration with this stock on it, and this is one of them. It's in excellent condition, really, really good shape. Now, a synthetic stock 1022 carbine like this used, you're going to find for around the $200 mark, maybe $250. This and this configuration, this condition, due to its rarity, is going to be about the $400, $450 price point. Now, on here is a pretty inexpensive Bushnell scope. There's really nothing else to say much about the 1022 that has not already been said. It is one of the most popular semi-automatic 22 rifles in America. Very, very good quality. New. A rifle like this you should be able to pick up for about $200 to $300. Of course, again, in the original synthetic stock, not this one with this stock on it. And used, again, $150, $250, somewhere in there, depending on if it's a synthetic stock, if it's a wood stock, if it's stainless finish, if it's blued. So they are not expensive rifles, but this is a unique one with the boat paddle stock. I just thought I would show you guys in this video. All right, here I have a Sig rifle, and what this is the quasi-new Sig MCX. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of the wrap in the box and show you guys here in a second. All right, the MCX is a pretty interesting one. This one came out from Sig. It's been about 2 or 3 years ago. They have a newer version of this called the Virtus. Those brand new, I think, are in about the $2,000 to $2,500 mark used. Those are in about the $1,700, $1,800. The first variations here, when these first hit the market, they were selling at about the $1,600 mark. Used, you're probably, they've held a lot of their value, but you're going to find them between about 12 and 14 respectively is about where you're going to find these sitting. What makes this a little bit interesting, it is not technically an AR. I wouldn't really classify it in the AR family. It's got a lot of sort of departures from the AR concept. A couple things here is this is a gas piston operated firearm. It does have a barrel, interchangeable barrel system, so you can switch it over to like 300 Blackout if you want to do that. A lot of your controls are similar to an AR-15. Dust cover, it is a top charging handle system, forward assist. Your selector lever is just like an AR-15 on the left-hand side, so it's got a lot of similar features. This is a ambidextrous mag release button, as well as your bolt releases here. Now, one other interesting thing that they did is they incorporated a buffer tube free system, so you do not need a buffer tube. You actually have, you'll notice, a sort of a taller upper receiver profile, and your recoil springs are actually housed right up here in the top of the receiver, so you don't need your springs and your buffer in a buffer tube anymore. And it does have a side folding stock configuration. It's really cool system. Now, one other thing that makes this unique is for a piston driven AR style, the weight on this is very low. It weighs in at about 6 pounds, where most of your piston operated AR-15s are just a pound or two heavier than that. So super lightweight, very ergonomic, side folding stock, quick change barrel system, piston operated, in about the $1,500 price point, $1,500–1,600 new, a little bit less used. Again, remember the Vertices out there, you can still get those on the market. Those are going to be in the $2,000 to $2,500. Really cool and innovative package. I really think they hit a home run on this design, and they have been popular. Now, they have never, flown off the shelves. We haven't ordered a ton of these in for people. It's sort of one of those things that I don't know if they got a lot of press, but it is a really cool option. Now, they also have the MPX, which is a very similar configuration, but that's for more of a pistol caliber, 9mm, if you will, pistol caliber carbine. Now, they do have the copperhead, or the copperhead, and the Rattler versions of both of those, the small sort of subcompact versions with the pistol braces and that sort of thing. So really cool platforms. Love this kind of stuff. SIG products have always been cool. They always never really hang around too long. All right, up next I have yet another SIG. These both came from the same seller, and he is a viewer of the channel, so thank you so much for that. And I know he was going to look out to see these in these videos. So number 2 is a Sig 716 308. Again, let me get it out of the box here and I will show you. All right, what we have here is the Sig 716 Patrol. This is a 308 AR-10, if you will. Now, this is in excellent condition, of course. I'm not even sure it was fired, still has the hang tags on it, and the magazine was not even ever taken out of the package, so I did not open that up. Very cool flip-up sights. Now, SIG has come out with newer generations of this. I think the G3, if I'm not mistaken, is the newest generation of this, with more of a, I believe it's an M-LOK forward handrail system. Not meant for DMR use, of course. Being a 308 with the 16-inch barrel, you can use it for that configuration if you want. Folding sights. Now, they did take some weight-saving measures here. They've milled out lightning cuts into the bolt carrier group, making it a little bit lighter. It's still pretty hefty for what it is. A really beefy quad rail right up here on the front end. Now, you do have your collapsing stock. It is a ACS stock from Magpul. You also have a Magpul pistol grip here with a trapdoor on the bottom. Really cool rifles. Really beefy setup. Really not much else to say about it. AR-10 from SIG. The 716s have always been very popular. Now new, the 716 rifles again are going to be in about the $1,800 to $2,500 range, depending on generation, configuration, and where you find it. These in the used condition, again, they're selling in around the $1,400 price point, plus or minus. So really cool rifles when you find them. Definitely worth taking a look at. All right, last but not least here, I have a FN49. Now, these are actually, there were a lot of these made, and they were contracted for many different countries: Egypt, Luxembourg, Venezuela. These are made in 8mm, 7mm, and 30-06. There was a version used by one of the South American countries, and the countries escaped me, that had a detachable magazine. Luxembourg had it in a 30-06. Those are probably the most rare. And of course, Egypt had them in the 8mm Mauser, which is what this is, an Egyptian contract FN49. The Egyptian contract guns are the most common. Now, this falls into an interesting point in history. So right after World War II, that is when we have the emergence of the full-size battle cartridge semi-automatic rifle, which will be sort of really transformative into becoming the standard issue concept for battle rifle use within the different countries around the world. Of course, you had United States in World War II with the M1 Garand, you had Russia with the SVT-40, you had Germany with the G43. Of course, that would be shaping the landscape of most militaries saying, okay, let's abandon the idea of a bolt-action rifle with a semi-automatic in its place. Now, FN would come up with the concept of the FN-49 at the end of the 1940s. So you have that period right after World War II, leading into the 1950s. Now, in the 1950s, we start seeing development of things like the FAL, the German G3, the Spanish SETME, Model C. So you have the new emergence of the magazine-fed detachable magazine battle rifle, which will be taking hold, of course, America with the M14, taking hold throughout the mid to the late 50s and through the 60s. You pretty much have every country adopting versions of the FAL, the M14, the G3, the SETME C, you know, things like that. So you have that period and through the 50s where things like this, the still wood and steel full-size battle cartridge with a fixed magazine semi-automatic rifle. Other things like this would be like the Swedish AG-42, the Jungmann. The Egyptians had the Hakim, which was basically a variation of the Jungmann. It was a contracted version of the Jungmann. France has the MAS 4956 and the model 1949. So you have that throughout the late 40s into the early 50s. Now, because of that, those rifles would really not see a whole lot of service. That would be included with this. Now, this is considered by many, the FN-49 version you see here is considered by many to be best in class for the fixed magazine semi-automatic rifle of the area. Many people would say that these are better than the M1 Garand, better than the SVT-40, better than the the MAS 4956, better than the Jungmann and the Hakim. Really the best. This is the best design culmination, the finalized concept of that type of rifle, which would have carried on probably to see a lot of military use, except for it was really the FAL, which would have come on also from FN. The FN FAL, which would have come on and sort of put this sort of design concept to sleep and would bring the world into the new era of the detachable magazine fed gas operated battle rifle, if you will. Now, of course, even those rifles would be very quickly overtaken with things like the M16 and the AK-47 and their intermediate cartridge lineup. I know that was a lot of history on this rifle, but moving on, the rifles in and of themselves, value-wise, the Egyptian, like I had said, is the most common, and they value anywhere from about $6,000, $7,000 up to about $1,000, depending on condition. The more rare variations, like the Venezuelan and the Luxembourg in good condition, will get you as high as about $1,500. And there were sniper rifle configurations with the scopes and mounts. If you find those that are correct and original, those will run you up to about $2,500 to $3,000. So that'll give you an idea on that. This one in particular is in excellent condition. It is not import marked. The parts are non-matching, so on the Egyptian ones you will have the sort of the hieroglyphic, if you will, characters. They should match on the parts, they do not. And there is a small crack right here, which is in a high impact part on the firearm, so that leads me to believe it was dropped, and this probably will not get any worse. But I would say without that crack, it would be considered very good condition, very good to excellent. With the crack, I would call this good condition. So anyway, a really, really cool rifle, and I'm happy to see this type of stuff come in. Well, that is all the time I have for you today on these. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this video. If you enjoyed, please let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. And also, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down in the comment section. I'm going to leave you guys off there. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.